Thank you very much. It's a great privilege and honor to be here. We have at our panel some really esteemed panelists who are coming from the world of research, collaborative sciences, as well as venture capital and businesses. So it is a great pleasure to do this topic of artificial intelligence at a national level. I think this is the perfect time to conduct this at a national level. And I want to thank the Council. I want to thank Deborah and all the Council leaders for giving us a chance to present the artificial intelligence. And what I would like to do is, for the panelists that are sitting here, Roy and Cynthia and Daniela, I'd like to mention several facts why this is a tipping point where artificial intelligence is today. The tipping point is, you see, a lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence as the next internet revolution. It is absolutely the next internet revolution. It's very pervasive. Not only that, we're now seeing, according to some of the economists and people from China, for example, Baidu, they're saying this is the next electricity, this is the next energy. Why this is all happening? The level of investments in artificial intelligence has been really very high. And we're now seeing a huge potential of all of the AI hardware and software reaching approximately $47 billion by 2020. That's a huge step up. We see enormous opportunities in the area of startups, especially in Silicon Valley, but in many ecosystems, as the panelists could vouch, around the world. And so far, there are over 1,500 startups across the world that are leveraging artificial intelligence. That's not a small number. You look at the information, for example, IBM Watson back in 2011 was simply focused on basic machine learning, not deep learning. And now they have 30 components focusing on deep learning today. Google had only few deep learning initiatives several years ago, but today they have more than 1,000 components in the space. We're seeing business models being changed, totally transforming the industry, totally transforming the world of academia and research. And this is now entering a stage where I just came back from B20, G20 in Germany. And it is a high topic on digitalization task force focusing on artificial intelligence. Because as you know, digitalization alone is providing major impetus, major force for growth around the world. Additional 20% of growth in artificial intelligence will probably lead to 1% growth worldwide. That's why it's critically important, and that's why we're having this discussion. So with what I'm mentioning regarding all this information, regarding the Internet of Things right now, they're basically saying that creates a value of over 1.9 trillion by the 2023. The numbers are enormous. We were just a few years ago, again, from a venture capital perspective, playing with only maybe $200, $300 million invested in artificial intelligence. But now, today, we're going to close the year of probably close to $1 billion invested in this space. We have with us, we have the managing director of Bloomberg Beta, but you have Khosla Ventures, and you have other groups, Intel Capital and others, who are heavily investing. And in the next several years, we anticipate investments will be at about $5 billion in artificial intelligence. So with everything going on, we're on the cusp of a major revolution. The models are going to shift. And let me be a maverick here today. I think some companies may simply not exist or be transformed because of what we're seeing. So I will pose a question first to you, Daniela. What do you see in terms of the perception, and are we reaching the point right now where our economic models are going to shift and change, and what do you think the future will bring to the United States?
So it's a privilege and a great honor to be here. Thank you for this great question about our research area. I would say that this is an extraordinarily exciting time for AI because a lot of the tools that we as a community are developing are maturing. And this is due to great advancements on the hardware side. We've heard about Moore's law today, but similar exponentials are happening in other aspects, in the quality of sensors, in the quality of the motors that we have available to us, in how we communicate. Practically everything about the digital space is subjected to Moore's law, to an exponential. In addition to that, as a community, we have made tremendous progress in how we solve problems. And the third reason is the advent of data. We now have the ability of collecting enormous amounts of data that help us learn how to do things right when we cannot write from scratch algorithms that will solve those problems. So good hardware, excellent algorithmic support, tremendous amount of data are all coming together. There is a confluence that enables all these things to come together to deliver things that, to deliver capabilities we never even imagined, even 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, nobody was talking about self-driving cars. And today, it's inevitable that we will have self-driving cars. All major car manufacturers have announced self-driving car efforts, and we really expect that this technology will come to bear and will bring us safety and will bring us more efficiency and a lower impact on the environment. These are all tremendously exciting possibilities for the future.
Thank you very much. Cynthia, just to follow up on that question, what are you seeing? Now, you heard all the facts. We're hearing on media the tremendous potential, tremendous growth from the investment to revenue potential in artificial intelligence. What are you seeing in the area of robotics in artificial intelligence? And specifically, are you, I know that you're also involved and you founded a robotics company as well. Give us an impression of how do you think it's going to change the business models and impact the United States for tomorrow?
Sure. So, I mean, I would definitely say we're at an inflection point of AI, and it's really not just about the technologies that Daniela had talked about are advancing to the point where you can really start to commercialize these systems. But when I first started work in this field, it was the case where you had these large corporations that would develop these advanced technologies like speech recognition, machine vision, you name it. It would take millions of dollars to develop these technologies, and they would hold them close to the chest and productize their own products based on these core technologies. And what's been happening more recently on artificial intelligence is those tools and abilities have been opened up into SDKs. So now third-party developers can start to take these AI techniques and put them into their own products and services. And so it's this recombinant innovation around AI that's happening right now. And so now you're starting to see many kinds of devices starting to exhibit these attributes of artificial intelligence. And that's very recent. So now we talk about Google and Microsoft's cognitive services and Watson. All the big companies are starting to do that. Now, the way that impacts a company like mine, my company is called Jibo. Back in the day, when you used to try to commercialize a robot, you would have to build all the intelligence into the machine itself. And it couldn't really change unless it was from its own learning. But now that it's connected to the cloud, you have this ability to continue to upgrade the content, the capabilities, to learn from data, to continue to have it adapt new abilities over time, to add new abilities. And now as platforms, you're able to have, much like the iPhone, a whole developer community of people now able to create applications for robots where they might not necessarily be a person skilled in robotics itself, but through the tools and technologies, they're able to start to create compelling applications for a new kind of platform. So it's absolutely transforming how robotic products are starting to be able to be commercialized and creating new revenue models. This idea of this kind of iPhone platform model is quite new to consumer robotics, but you're starting to see a lot of companies start to adapt that.
Cynthia, thank you. I know my own daughter is very much attached to Alexa, the new product that came out of Amazon. And many of you have seen that Bezos and his team at Amazon has released, speaking about the relative democratization of the tools in the space of artificial intelligence. They just released a bunch of tools So many developers and many end users and many research facilities and executives would be able to guide their teams to develop AI applications. Amazon Web Services have done this. Intel has done this on the hardware side alone. IBM is working as well. So right now, the structures, even though we don't have the major models in place or standards, there is a whole series of democratization which is taking place right now. And it is very obvious with some of the major players. Roy, thank you so much for joining and bringing the venture capital perspective. You're one of the leading players investing in artificial intelligence. Over several years, we have seen major players from Facebook to Google to Microsoft to IBM really buying out ideas, buying out startups, people who are visionaries, people who are leaders in this space. There has been over 150 acquisitions, 40 just alone this year by the corporate venture community, especially of the companies that I mentioned. Where do you see this going? What's the end game, and where do you see the convergence of venture capital and artificial intelligence?
Well, so we invest on behalf of Bloomberg exclusively in companies that influence the future of work. And when we started our fund, we did not mention or think about artificial intelligence. This was 3.5 years ago. And 6 months into starting the fund, one of my partners came to me and she said, we should start looking at this artificial intelligence thing. And at first I dismissed her and said, you know, fine, you want to work on it, be my guest, but it's your time. And 3 or 4 months after that, she came back and she found 2,000 startups that had been working on various, we prefer the term machine intelligence because it conjures up less of the science fiction nightmare. And of course, Cynthia and Daniela are actually inventing. As an investor, my job is just to help them plug the invention into the power at the end of the day and then commercialize it. So we play a role that's relatively late in the process, which is to say governments, large corporations, academic institutions start the chain of invention, and we're just delivering the last mile. So for venture capitalists to be excited, it means it is almost ready. Now, that said, I still think it's early. We are at an inflection point, and the way I think about it is the conversations we're having now about machine intelligence are similar to the conversations about the internet in 1997. If you remember that moment when everybody started saying, well, what's your internet strategy? What will you do? And they hired people with strange titles like webmaster. You know, that's the moment that we're at right now in artificial intelligence. The tools are beginning to democratize. We know there will be a lot of value. The acquisitions so far have honestly been a blip, I think, relative to what will happen. And we look at it, you know, at first we said, well, maybe this trend of machine intelligence, of machines making judgments and taking actions that affect the real world as otherwise people might only be able to do, maybe it's as big a trend as mobile. And then we said, well, no, it seems bigger than that. Maybe it's as big a trend as the internet. And actually, I think it might be as big a trend as all of software to date. I mean, if you look in the productivity numbers, the last 25 years, it is actually unclear whether technology has had that big an effect on US productivity. And I think that's because we've been waiting for the promise of the kinds of inventions that we'll see now through artificial intelligence.
Roy, just to follow up again to the earlier statement that I made when I was in Berlin, the Chinese were saying that they are creating thematic funds, which are specifically related to artificial intelligence. One is Baidu alone has put together, as you know, over $200 million fund. This is happening right across China. Investments are very, very important for us to make sure our startup community and make sure that we're inventing and we're reinventing our future and keeping our leadership position, which I think we should in the United States. What do we do? How do we deal with this?
I actually think venture capital is a rounding error, despite doing this for a living, at the end of the process. Much more important is government investment and large corporate investment in riskier, longer-term, fundamental basic research. I mean, we receive the end of the pipeline, and it's funny, we've now done this study, 2 of my partners, for 3 years, mapping all the artificial intelligence companies. In the first year, we got a bunch of calls from academics who said, oh, I've been working on this, thank you for finally seeing it. And the second year, we got a bunch of calls from investors who said, oh, last year I saw what you did, and now I want to put some money into this thing. This year, for the first time, the wave of calls is from the Fortune 500. And so we now have big multinational corporations, and not the ones who had the technology skills to actually invent, as IBM did, as Google now does, as Facebook now does, et cetera. But every company is saying, wait a minute, I need to do something about this. And so if you are part of the leadership team of a large established corporation, you ought to be asking, what is our artificial intelligence strategy? Now note, just like the late 90s with the internet, the single biggest danger, I think, from AI for corporate America right now is that many companies will blow billions of dollars on foolish AI investments before we figure out what to do. But we'll probably have to go through that phase. And then I think we have 25 years ahead of us of just incredible dividends for the economy and for human beings.
Roy, thank you. I agree. I think we need a very cohesive and very solid ecosystem. You can't have venture capital sticking out. You need corporations, and you need well-funded research, especially at the government level, to make sure that we maintain our very competitive position. As you know, U.S. is very competitive in this space. The next follow-up countries are in the Nordic area, and Sweden and Israel and other places. I want to touch
how competitive the U.S. is. I mean, for what it's worth, I think this is an area where Canada was focused on this issue for decades while the U.S. was basically asleep at the switch. China seems much more focused on this issue. And I mean, I think one of the issues that we have, and where a group like this can be very helpful, is I think as an industry right now, we lack strong hypotheses about where employment growth might come from. I mean, we have lots of hypotheses about economic growth, but I actually think this is a warning call to the U.S., which is not the leader on this issue right now.
Thank you.
So
And,
I would just like to jump in to
please.
add and say that I was in China, in Shenzhen, in August at a meeting where the governor of the province announced $500 million in robotics research at local universities for the province alone.
Amazing.
This is for the Guangdong province. And let's consider our investment. Our National Robotics Initiative is amazing. It's wonderful. It's at $30 million a year for the whole community, in our whole country.
Do you know the amount that the U.S. government spends annually on AI research, funding AI basic research? It was in the president released a report. AI should be important. And the number was $1 billion.
Yep.
It is nothing. I mean, we probably need at least 10x.
But I agree, and I think it should be some sort of a public-private partnership. We need government, we need families, we need all of the institutions. You know, just coming back to you, Daniela, regarding your home country, for example, Romania and other places. You know, you see when I travel in the region, I was just in Slovenia alone. They have invested heavily in a lot of the artificial intelligence research and people, but it's not reaching the markets. You know, how do we bring that talent that right now everybody's looking for talent of specific AI talent in data modeling, statistics? How do we bring this talent into the United States to develop market-ready solutions and products?
So, yeah, that's a great question. I would say that we have a lot of talent at the top universities in the United States, but it's not easy for our students who graduate to remain in our country and give back after their training, and because they do not get a visa. It's difficult for them to get a work visa. And so I think we need programs that enable our students to continue to stay here. At the moment, many of the students return to their home countries, and they help build the local economies there. So we have to do something about that.
Yeah, thank you. Cynthia, we are at a point where industries are being created. There are first movers. Now, we're seeing in technology world what Microsoft, what Google, what Facebook is doing. Can you share with us from your experiences, especially in the area of robots, but also in the consumer space, which companies right now are the first movers and what business models are they transforming, as well as also in enterprises? What are you seeing? What is research doing to align and connect with some of those first movers?
Yeah, so before I answer that, I want to also just raise the opportunity of artificial intelligence in education. So many of these questions around talent and opportunity, again, we hear this theme quite a lot this morning. Artificial intelligence offers a whole new innovative approach to bring potentially high quality education for everyone through mobile devices, which are prolific. And I would say we shouldn't only be thinking about K through 12 and beyond. We really need to start tackling the problem at early childhood. There's just way too much science that's showing that critical neural foundation that's being formed in those first 0 to 5 years, that even if you start kindergarten behind, it's very hard to catch up. Artificial intelligence and these technologies offers an opportunity to bring these experiences to the home so you can learn at home and not just at school, to augment what teachers do. So again, I see this as another area of critical innovation that we really need to take seriously as a country. Now, in terms of kind of the leaders in the area of robotics, I have to say, clearly there are a lot of really profound movers in the space, depending on the area of robotics: agricultural, medical, transportation, cars and so forth. But I have to say, the United States, in terms of these first kind of bold companies, still is producing a lot of the most innovative products and the innovative models. Like even in my own sector of personal robots coming into the home, we did a crowdfunding campaign because to raise kind of venture capital in that stage we did, you had to put your idea out there. And there have been so many copycats around the world now trying to do what we're doing because the idea is out there. So again, I think often the innovation is being started in the United States. And what I would like to see is the ability for us to continue to lead and own that rather than being taken over because there's so much more investment happening in other parts of the world.
Yeah. Cynthia, thank you. Just because we're a little bit short on time and I have a lot of questions, this is a very interesting topic. I'm sure our audience here as well. There's been a lot of talk regarding autonomous enterprises and what makes an enterprise autonomous. You know, some people talk about self-service intelligent agents, neural networks. Maybe, Roy, you could talk a little bit about some of the examples and what you're seeing in the autonomous enterprise space.
Sure. I'd like to find an autonomous enterprise, a company that runs itself. Sounds like a good thing. Or a VC that runs himself would also be a good thing. So we invest in things that are very mature. So I'll give you examples of the things, but they tend to be where there's a large data set, an immediate business value, and an immediate way to deliver value to a customer. So I'll give you a very tangible example. We invest in a company called Textio that takes a job description, and before you publish that job description to try to get candidates, it analyzes data about past job descriptions to predict the quantity, quality, and gender mix of applicants, and lets you edit your job description before you put it out there to maximize the potential results in the world. The reality is they're using relatively straightforward, well-understood machine learning techniques. We invest in a company called Orbital Insight that scans widely available satellite data and estimates, uses machine vision to estimate the size of markets. So for example, they can approximate how quickly is the Chinese construction market growing by counting the shadows on buildings. And so we have a lot of these data-driven, I think finance and healthcare are ripe because of the size of the data set. The question that this all raises is what happens to the experience of work and jobs. Together with New America, Bloomberg has been driving a project called the Shift Commission to study long-term scenarios for work in the United States. And I think the potential range of outcomes we might have. I mean, it's easy to picture the self-driving truck. Uber just bought a company that does this, that made its first beer delivery. We did focus groups in Ohio with truck drivers, having them watch that delivery, some fascinating results. But the self-lending mortgage officer, the self-auditing accountant, you know, there is a variant of this in any industry. And as we all know, you know, the total number of jobs to me is actually not really the issue, because a balloon doesn't pop because of pressure overall, it pops because of a pin. And we have many, many different professions across the United States where there's some risk of profound change. And so whatever industry you're in, I think there is some AI application that is coming for you very quickly.
Roy, just because we're running low on time, and I want to get into this area of the darker side of artificial intelligence. I'm an optimist, and I believe that artificial intelligence will create lots of jobs in cybersecurity. We're stepping up on value creation in the United States. We're always looking to solve problems. So if we're looking to solve problems and we're stepping up in value creations, we need to have people who are going to be architects. We need to have people who are statisticians. But I understand, you know, Gartner and Forrester put out statements that the press is picking up, that there's going to be 7% to close to 14% job loss by 2025 in a lot of areas. And I know, Roy, you've done a lot of studies with truck drivers and
I mean, we've looked at all of the research, and I think when we tend to debate these things, we tend to have a point prediction about here's what I think will happen and therefore what we should do. The reality is human beings are terrible at prediction. And so really the right way to think about it, we believe, and the reason we're doing scenario planning for the future of work is to try to prepare for a wide outcome of scenarios.
Roy, I apologize because of the shortness of time.
Sure.
And I just want to jump to Daniela for some comments regarding the job loss or opportunities in the space.
So I see AI as a vector for tremendous positivity. I see AI improving the quality of jobs. In other words, consider any job. Its repetitive and predictable aspect can be done by a machine. And that's not just for truck drivers and for other jobs that are really obviously in the line of machines. So I really see a huge opportunity to bring safety, to bring customization, and to bring more efficiency and joy. Because if you have a machine who does all the routine parts of the job that you might not be excited about, you could have more time to focus on what you're interested in.
Thank you very much. And Cynthia, just as we're coming to the closure of this session, there has been a lot of talk privately and also through the media discussing the ethics issue of artificial intelligence. They're trying to scare us, in fact, to say that the AI world could be catastrophic to mankind because they'll become smarter. The machines will become smarter than human beings, right? You heard that discussion. And that discussion was, I had several friends from Google and other companies that took that further, saying that in 20, 30 years, Ray Kurzweil said that we're going to attach our brains and we will scan all this information almost like what we're doing with the phones. So they're predicting this scary future. But I'm not sure that this is the future because we're talking about applied AI. We're not talking about creating a conscious machine. And I want to get your feedback and your perspective on the ethics issue and where we're going with AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary ethics issue around AI, honestly, is making sure that the AI that we create truly benefits everyone, not just the few. And I think right now, if you look at the applications, they tend to be clustered around certain kind of sectors, and it's not being democratized. So one of the big reasons why I keep coming back to education is, to me, that's one of those areas where AI could truly, truly benefit everyone on the planet. I think when we talk about the singularity, I mean, it's all speculation. I mean, what we know right now is we can, within a very specialized domain, we can create an AI that can perform better than a person. But people can do many, many, many things. These AIs that do one thing, that's all they really do. So the new dialogue that's happening in research and in the commercial sector now is the collaborative aspects. It's AI that works in conjunction and in partnership with people so that the team, the human AI team, is more proficient, more productive, more successful than either the AI alone or the human alone. And that's where a lot of the energy is going. So I don't see the doom and gloom. I really see us being augmented and able to lead successful, fulfilling lives because of that partnership. But we have to get that partnership right. And that's when you get back to the basic research and the application of that research.
And government support for economic security for individuals. I mean, 100 technologists and academics yesterday released this economic security project. I'm one of the signatories to call for exploration of the idea of a universal basic income, of every individual getting paid in order, simply as a citizen, simply because we think we need some complement to the uneven effects of AI on potential employment.
Thank you. And finally, one quick, brief answer from each of you. How does AI impact globalization? There's been a lot of discussions of this election about outsourcing, but we are now at a stage where we're leaving automation and going to a complete autonomy. And how does it impact developing countries? How does it further growth of our economy? What is your take, starting from you, Daniela?
So I like the idea of customization. I like to think about how we do manufacturing today, where someone designs all of our products and they are manufactured overseas mostly. So now imagine that we replace that process with a customized process where we have customized templates for various products that people could customize and instantiate with their personal preferences in their own homes, that then get produced in a local factory nearby, and this could impact the US and every other country on the planet.
Thank you very much. Cynthia?
Yeah, so for me, in terms of globalization, I really think in terms of the empowerment of teams, but also the empowerment of the individual, right? So AI offers the opportunity for deep personalization and empowerment. So, services that we have to go to industries and corporations for are increasingly going to be able to come at a personal level to the home. So whether it's finance planning, education, healthcare, I think we're going to see the empowerment of AI for the individual in a wholly new way. And I think that will be a global trend in general and shift industries around that.
Thank you. Roy, your final word.
I'm sorry to end on this, but I'm not sure I have anything useful to add. I really consider myself an expert in the U.S.
You're probably America first.
But I agree.
America first.
What do you mean by that?
America first, we're inventing, less on globalization aspects and less on trade.
I would say that the first mover thing is wildly overrated. We need, when these things work, for them to benefit the United States, but I actually don't care who's first.
Great. I think this is an exciting panel, and I believe this is our future. I think we, as American entrepreneurs, American businesses, American research, American academia, should be investing a lot more because this is a space which could make a difference for the United States and the world. And we've seen today perspectives coming from the top academics in research, as well as practitioners and financial capital. And thank you very much for listening and being part of the future, because I think the next time we meet, I think we may have intelligent agents that will guide us to this meeting, will guide us to the lunch, will schedule things for us. It wouldn't be that a very cool future for us. And I truly hope that it happens very, very soon. Thank you, everybody.